So we're talking about V'asu Aron Atzei Shitim. Yeah, I'm sorry, you had a question, David? So chapter 25, verse 10. You know the page, Kobe?
Chapter 25, verse
What page are we on?
432.
What page? Anybody? 433. Chapter 25, verse 10. And you shall make the ark out of acacia wood. Where did they get the acacia wood? We saw this yesterday, that Yaakov Avinu, David, this is the thing. Our forefather, Yaakov, understood that the children of Israel will need to build a Mishkan. So before he even went down to Egypt, he brought with him the trees to plant. That's what our ancestors do for us. They lay the groundwork, Thera, for us well in advance. And so he planted the trees. He brought the wood down with him. He brought the trees down with him to Egypt so that we would be able to take it with us when we left. And the question that we need to be thinking to ourselves is, what did our ancestors directly do for us so that we could be here today? And what are we doing for the next generation? V'asu aron, they shall make an aron of acacia wood, amatayim v'chetzi arko, 2.5 amos long, v'ama v'chetzi rachbo, 1.5 amma wide. What's an amma, Kobe? An amma is look, from the elbow to the tip of the finger.
18 inches, right?
It's between 18 inches and 24 inches. I mean, if you take like LeBron James, his amma is probably, the Talmud discusses like the amma of Og or the amma of Moshe. Some people have bigger ammas, but the standard amma is 18 to 24 inches. So, and 1.5 ammas high. So the ark was 2.5 ammas long. So let's just say 18 inches. So it'd be 45 inches long. So that's basically 3.5 feet long, and amma v'chetzi rachbo, 1.5 ammas wide. So that's, let's say, 27 inches wide, 2.5 feet, 3.5 feet by 2.5 feet. Not that big, but here's a question before we even get to Rashi. Why are the amos in half measures? Wouldn't it have been easier if they gave it in whole measures? You ever think about that, Kobe? That is something you thought about a lot.
Yeah.
Yes, Greg?
I'm sorry, what's that?
Meaning to say, why did it say an amma v'chetzi? Why didn't it just say 2 amos long and 3 amos wide or whatever, or 3 amos long and 2 amos wide? Why does it have to do it in half measures? Why are the measurements in halves? So, I mean, there was plenty of space. You could have made the dimensions differently. Well, maybe you can think about that. I don't want to have to give you all the answers. So then it says, Rashi says, V'asu aron, they shall make an aron, ke'ein aronot she'asu below raglayim. These are like the closets that they made without any legs. Asuyim kamin argaz, they made them like a box that in French is called an escrine in Old French. Écrine in French is a box for storing jewels. All right. Vitzipitao to zahav tahor. You shall cover this box with pure gold. Mibaytu michutz titzapenu. From inside and outside, it should be covered with gold. Vasita lav zer zahav savin. And you shall make on this box a gold crown around it. Not all the utensils in the Mishkan had a gold crown. The ark was one of them that had a gold crown. Okay. What do you do? Mibaytu michutz titzapenu. Rashi tells us that it's not like you think. It's not just a wooden box which is plated with gold. That's not what it was, Rashi says. Rashi says that there were all actually shlosha, or okay, wait, Jerry is raising his hand. I just want people to know that Jerry is raising his hand. Recently, last month, celebrated his 99th birthday. Jerry, please.
Thank you. In the previous Rashi, it stated that the ark had no feet, and here in this pasuk it says, "Attach the gold rings to its 4 feet." Is there a contradiction here?
No, it says it's 4 corners. Do they translate that as feet?
Yeah.
In Sefaria, they translate it as feet?
That's what the English translation is.
Yeah, I don't have that. I don't know that. Where is that?
Pasuk 12 in the English.
Or go down a little so I can see the English, Rabbi Yosef. Oh
Well,
yeah, they translate pamotav as its feet, but Rashi translates that as its sides. I can understand why they translate pamotav as feet, but it means it can't mean the feet because no, where are you going to put a pole on the feet? Yeah, I don't know. I don't understand their translation.
yeah, good point.
All right, we'll see anyway, we're not up to that verse yet. Well, we'll see we'll see what Rashi interprets it when we get up to it. But first, Rashi tells us that there were. Did I cut somebody off?
Yourself.
Okay. That there were 3 boxes. That there were 3 boxes. Bezalel made 3 boxes. 2 of them were gold and 1 of them was wood. You had a golden box. You should put a wooden box in the golden box, and then you put another gold box inside that wooden box. So there were 3 boxes. And then on top of that, Rashi says he covered the top box with a lip of gold. So therefore, it was covered on the outside and the inside from gold. There were 3 boxes, basically. There was a lot of gold there. And then Rashi says, golden crown around it. Kamin keter makifo saviv. The Torah has a crown around it, like a crown. Lamala misfato, above its lip. Sha'asa arona chitzon gavoa min hapnimi. The external box, which was of gold, higher than the internal box, and so it went above it, opposite the thickness of the lid of the ark, and a little bit above it. And when the cover, which was called the kaporos, was lying on the walls of the aron, then the crown went above that. And Rashi says, this is a symbol for the crown of Torah. This is a crown. This is a symbol for the crown of Torah. So this is a symbol for the crown of Torah. That's very powerful. Very, very powerful.
Makes a difference.
So what's the crown of Torah? We crown the Torah when we study the Torah, when we make the Torah central to our life. When the Torah is the driving force every single day of how we say, how am I going to study Torah today? Where am I going to find time today to study Torah? What's the center of my life? Then we have the crown of Torah. The crown of Torah is something that if we're lucky enough to have in our lives, we will always be having a crown in our lives. Doesn't matter what challenges we face, the Torah can never be taken away from us.
And Masechet Avot says that we acquire it.
We acquire the crown of Torah. The last chapter of Masechet Avot, which is really not Masechet Avot, the 6th chapter, it's really not Avot, but it was placed alongside it, is called the ways to acquire the Torah. Ways to acquire the Torah. Okay. So now it says in the next verse, V'yatzakto, you shall pour for it. What do you mean pour? Meaning to say you cast the gold. Anybody know how you make gold? I guess you take the mineral, you heat it up, and then you cast it by pouring it into something. V'yatzakto arba tabaot zav, 4 rings. V'natatao arba pamotav. And Rashi says you place the rings on the 4 corners. Ushtei tabaot al tzalo echad, 2 rings on one side. Ushtei tabaot al tzalo hasheni, 2 rings on the other side. Now here's going to be something very powerful. Let's see what Rashi says. V'yatzakta is lashon hatacha, casting. Pamotav. Rashi says it means the corners. And they were placed in the upper corner, not on the floor, Jerry. They're placed in the upper corners next to the kapora, next to the cover, 2 on each side, along the width of the ark. And the poles were placed inside them. And the length of the ark separated between the poles. And so therefore, the 2 people who carried the ark were placed in between these poles. And the Gemara in Talmud Menachot explains it. So the 2 people who were carrying it were inside. They were really basically right on top of each other. And there were 2 rings on one side. Rashi says, these are the four rings that are mentioned at the beginning of the verse. Okay.
I'm going to pull up a picture, Rabbi, of the ark.
Yeah, everybody should have a picture. Rabbi Steingos probably has a picture, yeah.
Article.
Yeah, we have that picture, but I'm sure does Rabbi Steingos give you a picture?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure he does. Yeah. Rabbi Steingos is not going to let everyone down, of course. And now we have, in addition to that, what else do we have? The asita vadei atzei shitim, and you should have poles of acacia wood. Vitzipita otam zahav. And then you should have the poles of the acacia wood, and you cover them with gold. The poles of acacia wood, and you cover them with gold. Now, these are the poles. Now we have something very powerful here. With these poles, Rashi says motot. It says in verse 14, you shall place the poles into the rings, onto the sides of the aron, to carry. The poles are carrying the ark. In the rings of the ark will be the poles, and they can never be removed. Rashi says, le'olam, forever, they will never be removed. Meaning to say they are never allowed to be removed. What does it mean they're never allowed to be removed? Why can the poles never be removed? So the commentaries explain, well, what do you think? What's the significance? What would you say, Moshe, what's the significance of the poles never from the ark, never being able to be removed? What do you think, Kobe? I don't want to put you on the spot, so we'll give.
It allows it to be continually moved. It allows
Exactly. It means that wherever we go in life, we take the Torah with us. Wherever we go, the Torah goes with us. Let's say we have to go to college, the Torah comes with us. We have to go on into service in a different part of the world, the Torah goes with us. Jews go into exile, the Torah goes with us. The Torah goes with us wherever we go. The Torah always has to be ready to be on the move. And then what do you place into the ark? You shall place into the ark the testimony. The Torah places into the ark. The Torah will be a testimony between me and you. The Torah is the testimony that I commanded you to do the mitzvot that are written in it. This is what else was placed in the ark? By the way, I should just say here Rashi just mentions that testimony. What else was in the ark? So Jeff is correct that the Talmud tells us luchot v'shivre luchot munachim ba'aron, that the tablets and also the broken tablets were placed in the ark. What's the significance of the broken tablets being placed in the ark? Yeah, Jeff.
Well, it's a concept almost of resurrection that you can correct, to remember it, and that things can be broken, but they still have value.
That's very nice. Well, that things are broken, that's different than resurrection.
Yes, you're right.
The concept that they're broken, they still have value. Sometimes let's say you see, let me give you an example. You see an old Torah scholar, but the Torah scholar like Rabbi Soloveitchik, he got Parkinson's at the end of his life, and that led to dementia. So he became a broken tablets, but he's still holy. Still, the broken tablets are still placed in the ark. Or you can look at a different way, that a person who was righteous, maybe he committed, maybe who knows what happened, but he fell. He fell in his actions. But even though he's broken, maybe he's still supposed to be in the ark. That sometimes that we don't give up on people, that when they're broken, even the broken tablets are placed in the ark.
And that's what David has been teaching us for the last while.
Which David?
David Plato.
David
Balto.
who? Oh, David Plato is right here. Yeah. Of course, yeah. Okay, very nice. Okay, now we go on to the next verse. Vasita kaporet zahav tahor. You shall make a cover for the ark of pure gold. Amatayim v'chetzi arka, 2.5 amos long. V'ama v'chetzi rachba, and 1.5 amos wide. So you shall make a cover for the ark out of pure gold, 2.5 amos long and 1.5 amos wide. Do you notice what's missing from this? Rashi tells us, Kisoyo Aaron, a cover for the ark, Shaya Patuch Milamala, that it was open. Minicho of Kamindaf, you place it on it like a board, 2.5 amos long, Karakosha Aaron, Virachbo, Kirachbo Sharon, and its width is like the width of the Aaron. Umunachas alaveak salim arbatam, and it rested on the thickness of the 4 walls of the Aaron. But now there's a problem. We're missing a very important element here. It tells us how long and how wide, but what it doesn't tell us, it doesn't tell us how thick the cover was supposed to be. It doesn't tell us how thick, which is the most important thing we need to know. You need to know how thick something is to know the cost, right? You don't know how thick it is. The rabbi said that it was 1 tefach thick, which is, by the way, Aryeh Kaplan Chumash, Rabbi Aryeh Kaplan, he calculated this, that if you take 1 tefach thick, which is 4 inches, by 2.5 amos, by 1.5 amos, he calculated that it comes out to 2 tons of gold that was placed, that was the cover for the ark. Yes, Jerry.
Judaism is very down on statutes and other forms of artwork. What is the explanation of putting these 2 cherubs on the ark?
That's exactly, well, that's the next verse. We're not up to it yet, but you're right. You're right. We're about to talk about that. It's a very good point. And the point is, I think everything that's prohibited in the Torah, there's also a space where it's permitted. Everything that's prohibited is also a context where it's permitted. God didn't make anything to be totally prohibited. So the cherubs are supposed to enable us to come closer to Hashem. So yes, you're exactly right, though. Let's look at the next Rashi. Let's look at the verse first. Va'asita shnayim kruvim. You shall make 2 kruvim of gold. Shnayim kruvim zahav. Mikshe ta'aseh otam. Beaten. Mishnei ketzot hakaporet. What does this mean? You shall make 2 kruvim of gold, beaten from the 2 ends of the kaporet. What does that mean? Just before we get to the Rashi, what does that mean?
You have 1 piece of gold and you beat it, you create it out of both ends.
Right, so it has to come from 1 piece of gold, which you beat out, and then you get these 2 figures on either end. What's the significance of that? What's the significance of that? What's the significance of that?
Because there's
What were you going to say? What are you saying, Jeffrey?
It's unified, it's all part of the same.
Well, I've read, I can't remember what it was, but that, God's presence dwells between the 2 keruvim. And, so you have this sense of like.
Well, that's in the Torah. The Torah is going to tell us that.
Okay.
So what's the point? Yeah, so what's the point of that?
Oh, so it's like Jeff was saying, it's sort of like it creates a single structure, for Hashem to become present.
So it creates a single structure for a unity, a harmony.
Yes.
The Talmud tells us that when the Jewish people were doing the will of God, the Kruvim were embracing each other, and when they weren't, they were turning away. And what are the Kruvim mean? So one explanation is that it's karabia, like children. That's what Rashi says. Kruvim, demut partsuf tinokahem. They each had a vision. They each had the image of a child's face. So this is the place where God presence comes down onto the earth. That's what the Talmud is going to, that's what the Torah is going to tell us. That in verse 22. So the place where God's presence comes down onto the earth is children. It's through the face of the children, because that's where the innocence is. That's where the innocence is. The face of the children is the innocence. So that's a very powerful idea. I'm not here. Let's look at this Rashi. Miksheh. Ta'aseh, it shall be beaten. Shelo ta'aseh mifnei atzmam. That you can't make them on their own. Shelo tichabreim b'rosh hakaporot achar asiyatam. You can't make them and then connect them like metal workers, like solder them in. Rather, take a lot of gold at the beginning and hammer them out together. And then the heads will jut out on their side. And then shape the kruvim at the ends. So it means to say, I guess what David was saying, and what Jeff was saying, that when it comes to worship of God, it can't be something external that we then bring in. It has to come out holistically from within us. It can't be external. Can't be external. Hashem is within us and it has to come out from there, one piece. And then we'll just do this last Rashi, Miksha, it will be beaten. In the old French, Rashi says that's bateditz. What does that mean? Nakshan, knocking against each other. Kitsota kaporet. Okay, look, we have a lot more to do on this, but I want to just remind everybody that tonight we're going to